Hello and good evening, everybody, and welcome to Train World TV. Tonight we have a familiar face, and you probably recognize him on YouTube. But tonight we have a show, and it's how to build a model train layout with James Wright, JLWII2000 from YouTube. How you doing, James?
Good, Ken. How are you doing?
All right, not too bad. We appreciate you joining us tonight for sure.
Sure, no problem. Glad to be here.
Thank you. And James is an excellent reviewer on YouTube. He's the original YouTuber reviewer on YouTube. So for model trains, he's just been there for the industry and just doing great things and always just featuring model trains. And you really enjoy what you do, James.
Yeah, I love all model trains. I can't think of any I don't like, and I get hassled sometimes from friends and my wife about, just pick an era or pick a road or something. But I just love them all.
Yes, you definitely do a great job, and you enjoy model trains, which is a great thing, and you show your enthusiasm on YouTube, which is nice for everybody out there to see.
Yep, absolutely. I have a great time, and it's it's just something that doesn't ever feel like a job. It feels like I get to share my hobby with everybody, and the videos are just a hobby within a hobby.
That's right. And so you recently have been doing a series with us. And at Train World, we really think it's important for everybody out there, if they don't have a local hobby shop, to have information at their fingertips. And that's really what James does best with his YouTube channel. He, does the hottest reviews, the newest product, and gets everyone, able to see, hear, smell, taste, all that good stuff on these locomotives. But now this new series, what we've been doing is how to build a model train layout. And you've been doing a great job, James. And we've actually been posting it on our website, following you along. And this is James Wright, basically the introduction, how to build a layout, episode one bench work, track planning, James Wright, transfer the track plan. So a lot of great stuff, cork roadbed. So you're really going one by one and showing the steps of how to build a model train layout.
Yeah, I wanted to originally show people how to do it because when I was coming up in the hobby, there weren't a lot of resources. You'd have to put together a magazine article here or a book there. So from the first layout I made, my thought process was, let me teach somebody how to do this. That's with the idea that they've never even had any exposure to the hobby, so they can run through the process and be finished with a product that they're happy with and that they can run their trains on. Because it's always cool to collect trains, but really a lot of people, they want to see their stuff in action. They want to run the trains, run the long consists. So I wanted to be able to show people how to do that and do that without having huge issues with derailments or track problems. Just making sure that everything is as good as it can be so you can really enjoy the hobby, which is kind of the final stage of this process.
That's great. And you have so many followers, and even on tonight, you have Anthony. Hello, how you doing, Anthony? Maryland, New York, Oklahoma. Tanner loves all of James' videos. So you have tons of support out there. So I really think it's great for everybody out there to really see the process that you're currently going through now. And it's on your own layout. It's not like you did this, just for the videos. It's what you enjoy and, you're passionate about, and you're really starting from scratch now.
Yeah, everybody from the very beginning has been so welcoming in this hobby. All my viewers, I wouldn't be pushing myself as hard as I am and as far as I am if I didn't have my viewers. So I appreciate all you guys because, it helps me step my game up. Even with the series I'm doing on Train World TV, it made me get more into editing a little more because I'm kind of a quick editor, but being able to put diagrams on screen and stuff like that requires a little deeper editing. But also, I don't want to let anybody down. If I'm doing something, I'm going to do it off camera until I get it right. And then I'm going to show people how I got it right eventually, and also show them mistakes. I can even show, some of the things that can go wrong on how to build a layout during that series and even tonight.
That's great. And so I'm sure everybody out there wants to take a look of where you're at, and I guess the process, and hear directly from you.
Yep, and the series is moving along pretty well. We are obviously a few steps ahead of the series, but I will show you around the layout a bit. And if you guys have any questions, Ken, you can always feed those to me. I'll be a little away from my monitor because this camera reaches out around the layout. But I'm happy to show you guys some of what I'm working on and where it's at compared to where you see it in the series. So I think with that said, we will go mobile.
There you go.
So what some people may have seen in the series is this stretch right here where both tracks are laid down. And in the series, we talk about the bench work, which is kind of like the foundation to the layout. But it's important to get that foundation flat and level. And if you're going to make any elevation changes, I provide product suggestions like Woodland Scenics risers in there to change your elevation of track to create grades. But I took a different approach. I've got a flat layout for most of it. And a good friend of mine said, most of the prototypical railroads are flat because they don't want a lot of grades because grades cause problems. So they'll plow roadbed through and make railroads as flat as possible. But here you can see, if we want to make some terrain, we just lowered the bench work in this area. And then I build this up with foam. Now what this allows, once it's finished, is to have the appearance of terrain going below the track roadbed. So you have your bench work, and then you start with foam. There's some shortages of products out there due to all of the circumstances globally. So I can only get 1 inch thick foam, so I have to have multiple layers here, which can look kind of cool because, the earth is multiple layers. But I use this foam tool to shave this down, and I've got a scenic backdrop coming where I can match that up with the backdrop's river, and this will eventually be a river scene. And you've got to seal it with silicone. So I've got silicone here where I'm going to be sealing that river scene so that the water, it's Woodland Scenics water we'll be using. But this foam kind of gets everywhere, as you can see, Ken. If I go, let me set this down. Point it down here. If I start moving this, you get a lot of this. So
right.
You want to have a vacuum ready, but I can eventually carve this out to where it is nice and it looks like a valley, and it's going to match with that backdrop. And I get my backdrops from Trackside Scenery. They have actual photo backdrops.
Oh, wow, cool.
Hopefully my audio is okay. I think it should be coming from my mobile camera.
Now we hear you.
Another important thing we talk about in the series is humidity and temperature control. As you can see here, I've only got a couple degree variation in temperature and a few percentages of humidity difference, and that's due to 2 humidifiers. One is a little temporary where we got it going into a bucket here.
Right.
But there's another one on this end of the layout that controls humidity down here. Because one unique feature of this room, a lot of times you get dealt the hand that you have to deal with, and the room is something you can't change much. But we've got a garage door, so it's going to introduce humidity here in the south. So I've got a humidifier running constantly out of drain on this end. And you can also see the roundhouse here And the hole for the roundhouse, that's all cut out.
Wow, very neat.
From car shop facility. And to be honest, it's a little messy because we've got track, switches, and all sorts of stuff here ready to be put into the layout at different areas.
Wow.
NCE circuit breakers. We talk about that coming up very shortly on your channel. That helps protect the layout from all sorts of shorting problems. Because what happens is you have a huge layout like this. This layout is sitting in about a 1,400 square foot room, and eventually it's going to be over 3,000 square feet as it expands that way in phase 2.
Wow.
There can be a short, and that's simply the track on one rail connecting to the track on another rail with a piece of metal or anything small. You've got to be able to diagnose where that's at. So I'm teaching people how to break your layout into sections, and you'll be able to tell which section has a problem, and it makes diagnosing way easier. So you just look on that section, take a vacuum over it, see what's going on, see if there's a shorting piece of rolling stock or a brass engine or something causing a problem. And I teach people how to do that by installing gaps in the rails and these little plastic rail joiners instead of the metal rail joiners that we're used to using. So it's a very intensive process. And even in the series that we're doing on Train World, there'll be little pockets of things that people will do differently, or that, you know, they have their own inputs on. Even lighting, you know, how you get your lighting right is its own multiple phase process. So it's as best we can, we're covering it, but there is a lot of stuff when you have to consider how to build a layout.
That's unbelievable. And it seems like you removed the garage. So I hope your wife's okay with you moving into the garage space and the whole basement.
Well, luckily we have 3 of them upstairs. The guy that had this house before is a car collector, and there are 3 or 4 cars down here.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Then,
all right.
Then there's 3. Yeah, there's 3 spaces upstairs. So this was actually the only house we saw with this much space. So it's good, and it can be expanded once the kids get out of the house into the area that's their play area, to make a really massive layout.
I'm sure you had.
I would consider myself kind of middle of the road.
I'm sure you had to focus on enough room for your train layout.
Yeah. Oh, that.
James?
That was hood. That was, the layout would have been about 60 feet more of track than I had in Omaha. And I said, that's unacceptable. It has to be at least 2.5 times. And I would not waver off of that. Wow. So I wanted it at least 2.5 times the size it was in Omaha. And it was like, this is going to end up being close to 180 feet of mainline track. I haven't measured it out exactly, just per loop. So when you consider all of the yards and everything, I think I ordered over 750 feet of HO scale track.
Wow.
Wow. And from Atlas, and I'll kind of give a plug to Atlas too. I ordered it through Train World, and you guys have a good stock of Atlas track, but I found Atlas is easy to work with, and it helps me keep the curves better. And I can show you guys, you know, a little bit of that too, but there's some tricks to laying track and making sure that you have smooth curves large enough for rolling stock and things like that. So
that's awesome. Yeah, they do make great track, and they're kind of a leader, and they've set the bar for the track industry for so long. I mean, Atlas goes back, I don't know, probably near 70 to 70 years old. I mean, they've been around for a while. So
yeah, they're really. I've used a few different types of track in my 11-year journey in model railroading, and Atlas track and switches, they match up well, obviously, because they're the same manufacturer, but I hear nothing but good things, and I've had no problems, so I'm happy to use them again. And luckily, we placed a huge order to get that ready, so I have everything on hand to really finish this layout track-wise.
That's great. And so you have this great layout. You built it. You're starting the process. Now you're up to the circuit breakers, the NCE stuff. How long do you think this process is?
So I computed, somebody asked me, are you looking at it as a job? I said, no, I just need to know how many hours I have to be down here, so we're not here until I'm a 90-year-old man. And I kind of did the math, and I came up with something like 120 hours on top of where I'm already at, just to get the track down and the wiring done. And the wiring is its own beast because you're working from under the table. I actually have a special chair where I can kind of lean back and work on the wiring. And you're looking at a diagram because I'm not smart enough electrically or electronically to do it by memory. So I'm looking at a diagram that's basically built to where you're looking at it face down and you're doing it upside down. So, so it's an interesting process, but that's a lot of work because with the districts, we call them, to isolate those shorts, you have to run wire all the way around to the district, and you have to run a separate wire all the way around to that district. So you're running it several times. On my last layout, I had one loop of wire called your bus line, and then just feeders going off of that. But I quickly learned when I had a short that I couldn't figure out where it was. And I'm looking all over the place. It ended up being in my roundhouse, but I had no clue. And I didn't find out until I disconnected the whole yard and roundhouse area. And I'm like, okay, now we're not shorted out. But if you look at my videos right before we moved, I couldn't find where it was. So I had a piece of Easy Track doing all the reviews for the last few weeks.
Wow. So, I mean, this is really, there's a lot of technical stuff, which is why I think it's great that you're making it easy and showing it to everybody out there, basically the groundwork and what you've been going through, and basically a 101 how to do this. But how did you learn all of this stuff? Just watching videos and stuff, information, or clubs?
There was very few videos online, and that's why I started creating the How to Build a Layout series, but I was pulling information from magazines, from model railroader articles, from model railroad news, or model railroad craftsman articles, and kind of pulling this all together, and then talking to my cousin who was a model railroader to help me bridge it all together. But what I found back then, and it's still kind of true today, is once you get 10 or 11 or 12 years into the hobby, you kind of forget where you were, and you're kind of in a technical mindset. So what I try to do is remember how I was as a beginner to make sure that I'm teaching people this is how it works. I don't over technical. I don't over speak with the technical side.
Right.
I'm still showing them as if they're on day one.
You're a man of the people.
well, that's where the diagrams and on the how-to series, you'll see the diagrams and you'll see the wiring diagrams. They can, blow that up full screen, take a screenshot and print it if they want. Now it's not red green because little known fact is I'm red green colorblind. So I've got different colors to be able to look at the wires. For example, if you look over here, there's a green, I don't even know what color this is, to be honest, but there's a wire that I can tell is yellow, tell is not yellow. So you can keep the track separate, because one well-known fact about model railroading is one rail has to be fed through one wire and the other one has to be fed through a different wire. If these two wires are fed together, that causes a short. So, I'm using colors that people may be like, why is he using that color? It's because I'm red, green colorblind. So I've got to pick colors that I can distinguish in dark situations, because that's where my red, green colorblindness really gets me. I once bought, I thought I was buying two green shirts and a black shirt, and I was digging through this box of shirts deployed one time in the Middle East, And I
Oh
came
my
home with
God.
3 black shirts, and I'm like, "Where's the green shirts? I thought I saw green shirts in here." So
That's
it's
crazy.
just the shade. All it takes is a little bit of shade of color or darkness, and it's messing with my color vision. But those charts are going to be able to help people, take those screenshots or whatever and work through the problems. And then I'm always trying to keep an eye on the comments to be able to reply to people if they have questions as well.
Got it. And we got some customer questions rolling in. The first one is a bit off topic, but we'll ask it anyway. What's the favorite engine you've reviewed?
All time, it's really tough. I can tell you my most recent favorite, and I'd probably still call it my favorite overall. My first exposure to or regular trains was UP844 as an adult. I saw trains as a kid all the time. So Broadway Limited released their version of 844, which is an FEF Northern. It's a 484 steam locomotive. And I think they've done the best job with that. So that's kind of my current favorite because it's my favorite locomotive, executed the best. And when you get
Yeah,
that, you get a winning combination. So,
that's awesome.
yep.
And Joe is asking, the biggest issue I had building my layout was making a duck under bridge. Was never able to perfect the swing gate. Can James answer that? I'm not sure if that's more
Sure,
of
I
a
can show you
question
an
or.
example. So here, I didn't do a swing gate, but this is a little back area that's eventually going to be an area going to a different aspect of the layout. I did
Oh, wow.
this. So this will come up. And actually, I can't take the credit for this. Bob from the Bob's In-Scale Man Cave did this, but there's a door lock in this, and you lock it so you don't have any issues with this falling. And if you go to the Bob's In-Scale Man Cave's YouTube channel, he shows how he helped build these for me. But you just got to make sure when you put this down that the track is level. So we made some adjustments on the track. Sometimes it's nailing it down a little differently. And then for the electrical connection under, we have these connectors, and they just plug into each other. And if you make them opposite, you'll never plug the bus line into the wrong end. So the female connector on this end and the female connector on this end will allow for you to easily connect that without having to worry about causing a short or connecting the wrong bus line to each other.
Wow, very interesting. That's pretty cool craftsmanship there.
Yeah, and that's where it's kind of it takes a village sort of situation. Even really professional modelers, there's a layout in Colorado that's very famous, BNSF layout. They have a lot of modelers come over and help because this hobby is so extensive that not everybody knows everything. And even if everybody knows everything, sometimes it's too much work to do by yourself. So it's good to ask for help and get friends involved. And then when your layout's done, all they ask in return is, hey, let me bring over some trains and run them occasionally. And it's a good deal for, both the people helping and the people needing the help.
That's right. That's right. And Guillermo wants to know, will you be having a catenary system?
No catenary system planned. I'm
Okay.
mostly a freight modeler, and the passenger stuff I model is mostly the Union Pacific 844 that we were talking about with Broadway Limited, and that's just a passenger car consist with no overhead power. I do love the Amtrak stuff, but I'm just not into it enough to gear my layout towards it. It's going to be visiting on the layout. And another interesting fact about this layout is I have sections, as you can see on this side, that are wooden ties because the backdrop eventually, there'll be a backdrop here. It's going to be a timeless setting. So we have wooden ties and a backdrop that doesn't have any indication of any era. If I put a Biden billboard or or a Trump billboard or something that indicates, hey, we're in the 2020s back there, that kind of gives it away. So if I do like farmland with old barns, I can run anything. So I can have an older locomotive or a newer locomotive running on my layout and have a nice video queued up without any indication it's any different. Over here, you can probably see in the distance, there are concrete ties for indicating modern layout. And that's where I might put things like wind turbines or something to indicate, hey, this is the 2020s or this is the modern era. So
got it.
That's about as era specific as I get, and specific as I get on the layout. There won't be any overhead power.
No problem. And Comrade Sizzle is asking, how do you make grades and hills in your layout?
Oh, great question. So there's a couple different theories on this, and I've done it both ways. If you want to build your layout with several layers of foam, so imagine this is your layout all the way around. You just build up this foam, and then you use this foam shaver tool to carve it down. You can make any shape you want. You can then paint it, apply some Woodland Scenics turf, or I get all sorts of products on Train World's website for scenery. And then if you don't want to do that, you can just have your layout like I do, where you subset the areas you want below and you put the foam in to build it up. And then if you want an area on top, so say I want a hill over here, an area that's not subset, I just build up layers of foam. I'm gluing them together, obviously, for stability. And then I carve it down and make it a hill. Now, one of the problems I've had before is I've made it too sharp. It doesn't look realistic. It looks like something out of a cartoon. So you want to take a big piece of foam like this, and you shape that hill out over time to where it's like, not Super Mario 3 land, and you've got a nice, very slight hill and grade, and that's going to be covered in the series as well, like how to do terrain. And
very cool.
There's a couple different theories. Some people will really stack their whole layout up with foam and just dig into it, carve into it, make culverts, make valleys, rivers. But I decided I was just going to subset one area and then build up the rest.
That's awesome. It sounds like you definitely need a shop vac around there with all that shaving.
Yeah, I even have a N95 left over from Corona here to make sure that us thick folks will inhale a lot. So I've inhaled little chunks of the foam, and I'm like, this can't be good for my health.
Oh yeah, not good. And David Miller actually has a good question. He's having issues with laying HO Atlas Flex on 22-inch radius with foam roadbed using silicone adhesive. It gradually stretches out at joints. Any solutions? ? Use cork ?
Yes. So the foam is definitely going to be part of the problem. Let me show you another solution that's pretty easy and quick. One thing is, I love these. I don't know if they make them in 22, but I love these alignment gauges by Ribbon Rail. What they do is they'll set your radius for you once you set it into the track. It's a little hard for me to do this with one hand, but you can probably imagine this sitting in the track, and then you're just curving it along. But Atlas Track, let's see if this piece has it here. This is actually not Atlas, but I'll use it as an example. They have little divots. Actually, let's go over here real quick. This is Atlas Track. If you turn it upside down, you'll see tiny little holes. I hope that's coming across.
Yes.
Every few inches or so. And what you want to take is a 3/16 drill bit. And what you do is line that up in the hole. I don't know if you saw any of that, but I drilled the hole from the underside, and now you have a hole up here. So what you can do is you drill all those holes out, and then you use Atlas track nails. And if you're not using concrete ties, you can barely see them.
Wow.
You're going to want cork road bed and Atlas track nails into a wooden surface, and you're able to secure it. Now, if you have a foam bed and there's no way to really secure that with track nails, what you're going to want to do is what we like to call the canned good express, I think it is. So you set your curve with something like those ribbon rail tools, and you go ahead and put that glue down that you're doing, and then you take canned goods like can of peas, can of green beans, go raid your wife or parents' cupboards and get those cans, and you're able to lay that track down with some weight on it, because that can fits perfectly in the track, and it'll sit there. And that's going to hold the curve where you put it while that glue dries.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
Tricks of the trade.
Yeah.
And Harry coming in. How do you make a manual throw on a turnout look realistic? I can't find any examples of how to make a realistic ground throw.
Well, the first thing is the cork road bed. You want it lined up with the ground throw to work. And then what I do is I just build up ballast around it. Now, I've got to be honest, I haven't looked at realistic ground throws, but there are companies out there that make the more modern ones with the yellow loop. Either way, once you build the ballast around it, you got to keep it out of the area that moves. So I paint that area gray so that it doesn't really look like ballast is moving or missing in that area. But you can also use a little bit of a dull coat to bring the plastic shine down. But that's about as realistic as I get on the ground throws. But this layout will actually be ground throws. Maybe down the line it'll be updated, but I like the idea of a ground throw. So maybe we can cover that when we do a future video in the series, and kind of I'll work through that ahead of time and see where I get. But those are the pointers I have right away.
Very neat. And Joe is asking, what's your YouTube channel again?
So the series is going to be on Train World TV, and then my YouTube channel is JLWII2000, which I know is hard to remember, but once it got Steam going and people started subscribing, it really became a difficult decision to change it, because then people don't know what's going on. So it's JLWII2000, which is essentially my initials. I'm the second, and it was an old username from high school. So that in the year 2000, which dates me a little bit.
And Joe, you got to catch up to speed. James is all about it on YouTube. He's the hottest sensation.
Yeah, there's a lot of great modelers on YouTube, so you can get lost in the sauce sometimes.
And Patty coming in with a good question. How do you ballast your turnout switches, and will they still operate remotely?
So I don't have immediate plans to operate mine remotely. They're actually going to be ground throws, which are directly connected to each switch. But I ballast around the moving parts, and then I paint the road bed gray so it blends in with that area, so that it doesn't really look like any ballast is missing, but it keeps it out of those crucial points like the frogs and where that throw is operating. So it blends in nicely from a distance where it's still gray, but ballast is missing from that area.
Very cool. That's great. So a lot of great questions, and it's pretty like advanced questions. It's not like simple basics. So we have a lot of advanced modelers out there looking for just tidbits, tricks of the trades.
Yep. And I consider myself kind of middle of the road, but I'm glad to either say, hey, I'm not there yet, or here's what I've run into.
That's great. And that's what this series is about. Just kind of giving a little guidance. And not everybody knows everything, like you mentioned. Everybody has their specialty sometimes, but it's about putting the pieces together and over time building something great.
Yeah, and even having these questions has jogged my memory and gotten me thinking about things. For example, they asked, how do you blend in the switches? I forgot I need to go back and paint the roadbed under those switches. So it's good to know now before I get all the track laid and it's kind of locked in.
That's great. Yeah, a lot of interesting questions, and I know this series will continue to grow, and you're doing a great job. And quite honestly, we should have showed your intro clip in the beginning, so it laid the groundwork for it. But I'm just going to show the clip now while we have everyone together. But it's really like 3 minutes just to show everybody what James Wright's series is on. And he does a great job projecting it and letting everyone out there know on YouTube. So hang tight 1 second.
Okay. Hey everybody, welcome to Train World TV. My name is James Wright. You may know me from my YouTube channel, JLWII2000. But I'm on Train World TV for an exclusive How to Build a Layout series. And with 10 years of experience finally under my belt, I've got a lot of good tips and tricks that you can use to build a layout, and a how-to series all the way through that should help you start your layout all the way to the scenery process. So with that said, I want to give you an overview of what this series will entail. It's over several months. You'll find it exclusively at Train World TV's YouTube channel. And I'm going to talk to you about what all we're going to do together here on this channel. So first, we'll start with introduction to benchwork. Benchwork is a very complicated, multifaceted process that can be done many different ways. But in benchwork, we're going to cover what you can do to build your benchwork, the different approaches you can have, and some literature to give you a step-by-step guide to actually building the benchwork. After that, we'll move on to track planning, give you some software approaches to how to build your layout with track plans and how to get that printed out on the paper so it's easy to actually apply to your benchwork. Following that, we will do transferring those track plans to your benchwork and show you an approach to that that is both unique and effective. After the transfer of track plans, we're going to cover cork roadbed and how to lay that and ensure that it's in a smooth and steady process to set you up for reliable operations in the future. Almost the most important step of any layout is the actual track work. We're going to cover track work, what brands and approaches I think you should use, and what I use to ensure that you can run trains without any issues overall. Then we'll get into wiring your track work, including bus wiring and feeder wiring so that you have power districts set up. We'll have all sorts of tips there so that you can ensure that there's no power interruptions to your layout around the entire perimeter. After that, we will be operational in terms of being able to run trains, but there's so much more to cover, including installing a roundhouse and turntable and other structures. We'll have a car shop. We'll also have a bridge to install, or a couple of bridges in a couple of different areas, and show you different approaches to how to install bridges. Then we can move into scenery. You'll have different terrain that we can work with. I'll show you some approaches to that. Waterways, backdrops, and even grade crossings all around the layout. So there'll be a lot of different areas you can see in scenery, but overall, I will show you how to complete some of the key scenery areas on a layout. Well, that will cover everything we're going to be showing here on the How to Build a Layout series exclusively on Train World TV. I hope you'll join us because there's going to be tips throughout this series that I've learned over the years that will help you have trouble-free operations on your layout. And there'll be so much more knowledge shared in the comments section. There'll be a lot to learn in this series, so I look forward to sharing that with you. With that said, we'll see you next time here on Train World TV with Introduction to Bench Work, and I look forward to all the fun we're going to have together. Thanks.
All right. Very neat.
Yeah, it's a great process, and it brings a lot of great memories too. And when you are able to finally run on your layout, and you look at a scene and think about when you did that and what stage your family was in, which friends helped you. It's just overall just an amazing hobby, and you learn so much and have to apply so many different techniques to really be successful in having an operational layout.
Yeah, and you cover it all. You go through A to Z, and I think that's what's neat about this series is people could follow along the process and watch one video at a time and really take it step by step, which is neat. We do have a couple of more questions coming in. I'm not sure if you have time for them or.
Oh yeah, I'm here as long as you want me to be here.
Well, they'll keep on asking all day. So
yeah.
We have Jarrell. What name brand ground throws are you using on your switches?
So I actually haven't got to that point yet, and I don't remember which it was. Let me see if I can remember real quick. I think I have it in a list. But
Industries is kind of like a big one. Not sure if you have a different brand.
Looks like it was, Caboose Industries sprung manual turnout ground throw.
There you go.
Yep.
And Anthony is asking, James, are you going to have a computer and signal systems on your layout?
No, not initially. Phase 2 of the layout, which is actually almost double the size of this room, which we're talking almost a decade down the road. Once that's complete, then I'm going to start looking at signals and automating the turnouts, because it's just going to be too big of a beast to handle. Block detection, all of that is way down the road, because I don't want to really get into that until I've got a complete finished product on the layout, at least where the footprint is going to be.
Oh. And Harry is asking, at what point do does he start using power districts? His layout is 9x14. It's pretty big, Harry.
Yeah, it's really, I kind of look at a layout and say, do I want to have to diagnose a short? And that's the first question I ask myself. If there's a piece of wire or metal laying across two tracks somewhere, do I want to be able to know where that is or not? And that's really the first question you have to ask yourself. 4x8, no big deal, especially if it's one loop a track. But when you're getting the sizes that you're getting into, Harry, I would suggest, just look at pricing. One of the big issues right now, though, at least if you use most systems, circuit breakers, is supply. Luckily with trainworld.com, I was able to pre-order some of the circuit breakers I'm going to need later for the yards. But right now I was only able to scramble together enough for the main line. So you kind of weigh out the supply issue along with how big your layout is, and you'll make the decision, for yourself. But I suggest, your size, you're probably looking at, you probably want to be able to separate the districts. And you don't necessarily need a circuit breaker to do that. You can still separate the districts simply by using the plastic rail joiners. They're called isolation joiners, I believe. And then wiring it separately. And then you might have to unplug each section to figure out where the short is.
Very interesting. And Gerald, yes, we do carry Caboose Industry ground throws. For us, they're the biggest seller of ground throws, bar none, for us at least. But everybody has their, I guess, personalization, which they prefer. But that's definitely a big seller at our site. Yes, we do carry them.
Yeah, I used those in the past, and the great thing about those is they're sprung. So you flip the throw, and it springs that switch into a different position and holds it there. If you install it correctly, obviously, so that when you have rolling stock and locomotives rolling over it, there's no chance of it flexing or moving and causing a derailment. So they're really reliable.
That's awesome. And I guess everybody out there, if there's any last minute questions before we do wrap this up, let us know. James is always willing to help, and he's a great ambassador for this hobby. So we really appreciate it. And if you're out there in the chat, please give your thanks to James out there for always providing these great videos, content for the whole train industry. And I always told James, even when he first started, I said to him, the dealers, the manufacturers, the customers, the whole train industry owes a little bit of debt of gratitude to James, because he really does a great job, and he does it as a passion, as a hobby, and he truly enjoys it, and he just really gets all this content out there. And for a lot of people, they may not have a local store, 20 minutes away or 15 minutes away, and or a local club. So going on the internet, even if it's 1 o'clock at night, just accessing information, it's a great thing for everyone for the hobby. So you're definitely getting a lot of kudos out there, James, and we all appreciate your hard work.
Yeah, I appreciate everybody. I can't see all the comments because of the remote camera setup, but I'm glancing over at a few, and I appreciate all you guys. I mean, I'm dead serious. If I didn't have the channel, it has kept me pushing further and to help people and to keep myself, challenged. And we've gotten over 800 videos now on the main channel. So you guys have seen me, grow from a 27-year-old man to a 38-year-old man, and you've seen me grow this way too. So,
and that's unbelievable. 27. Wow.
Yeah. So I was a way thinner, and then even then I thought I could stand to lose a few pounds, but I have been able to grow as a modeler too, because the first layout was the integrated roadbed track, and it was this table that we had put together, and it didn't mean to have grades, but it had a sag in the center because we forgot to support it, so I had grades before I even meant to have grades in my layout. But I've learned a lot over the time, and I've still got a lot to learn. People correct me all the time, and the reviews are improving too. I've got a stat sheet now at the beginning of the reviews, starting just recently with the Broadway Limited Early Challenger. It's going to give you guys all the stats up front, because I want you to know what you're getting into. And stats are something you don't have to worry about trusting anybody on. They are facts that speak for themselves, and you can determine whether that works for you or not.
That's great. That's amazing. And I can't believe, you've been doing this for so long, and it's truly amazing how much you've grown as an individual and in the hobby. And, just because you started at 27 doesn't mean you have to have the same layout or the same trains. You've grown, and now you've expanded this wonderful layout, and you're doing a whole video series on it. So it's really incredible how much I guess in sequence things have gone. So that's great job, James. Great job.
And I want to say thanks to Train World too, because we've known each other and worked together since 2013 or 14. It's been a long time. 7-8 years. And you guys recognizing the power of social media, the hobby is still working on that. And you guys are so far ahead of the time of your time on that, that, working together, it's great to have somebody encouraging you as well. So I get a lot of encouragement from both sides, you guys and the fans, and I appreciate all of it. So thank you.
Well, we appreciate James, and we couldn't do it without you. The whole industry, it's just you do a great job, and we truly appreciate it. And I guess before we do sign off, there were 2 more questions that came in. So if you don't mind.
Oh, no, absolutely.
Sheldon wanted to know, do you glue down your turnouts?
No. What I do is, first I'm going to run a lot of trains before I get anywhere into the scenery aspect. And if they are misbehaving, I will either nail them down or I will glue them down, because the turnouts do have the ability to bow a little bit. But I prefer to drill a little hole and nail it down because I can always adjust that. Where glue, it's a little harder and it gets a little messier and you have to scrape it or pull it. And sometimes it's pulling ties off and destroying that turnout. And those are expensive. So,
Yeah. Now,
yep.
and David is asking about backdrops. I know you know like a custom backdrop person. I'm not sure if you could give him a plug.
Yeah. So there's actually a few different backdrop folks I've been through over the years. And the one that I really have come to enjoy is tracksideScenery.com. They have a realistic backdrop. They can work with you on customization. So for my bridge scene that we showed earlier in the video over here, there you go. I can line that up. I can say, hey, I want my river this wide. I need my river located here. And they can move all those things within the backdrop,
Oh, wow.
print it, and then they're able to drop it down to the 4 inches of a drop that is, so they can get that river really close to where I need it. And then I can shape the foam to match it.
It's unbelievable.
And then there's other backdrop places as well. Some of them are just clouds. Some of them have buildings. I've used a couple different backdrops, but that's where I've landed and where I'm really enjoying it. And what sold me on that backdrop is I was watching a YouTube video and they're talking about the backdrop the whole video. And at the end, they say, oh, by the way, there's nothing on this layout except for the backdrop and a little bit of, ground scenery. There was no trees. And I didn't even notice until the end when they said something.
Wow.
Because it really draws your eyes in. So it's really where I think the realism is. And once I get the layout perfectly real for my eye, then I'll start, weathering locomotives and rolling stock and stuff to make it a completely real scene, real picture. So
that's great.
Yep.
And John is leaving it on a great note. This series is perfect timing since I'll be starting to build my first layout. Enjoy your channel and videos with James Wright. So that's great to hear. And
thanks, John.
That's what matters, getting people started into the hobby. So you're doing a great thing, James. We really appreciate it. And all of these great videos and train resources at the bottom of our website, you could see James's series, how to build a model train layout, and that's his homepage. And we'll keep on updating all the videos as we progress. But we also have other train resources, technical support, starter set help, which train set is right for me, which scale is right for me, how many curves in a circle, DCC, Lionel Legacy, MTH, DCS. So we're really trying to make it user-friendly and train knowledgeable resource guide for everyone out there. So make sure you check in there if you're looking for help or need help. We have some great resources available now. And we want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it. And big shout out to James Wright. Check out his YouTube channel, JLWII2000. He does a great job on product reviews, just model train knowledge overall and everything. We really appreciate it. And we also want to invite you to more shows like this. So sign up for our email sales, subscribe to our YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all those great social media things. So we really appreciate that. Give a thumbs up, and we appreciate the support out there. Really great comments. And James, I think this went really well.
Well, thanks. I appreciate it. You guys energize me. The viewers energize me, and it's kind of the golden age for me. I finally have the more difficult stages of life behind me with the military, not having to move around every couple of years. So I'm just having a blast down here, and it's great to come down here, play some music, and get to work, working on the railroad all the live long day.
There you go. That's what it's all about. Well, thank you very much for joining. Thank you, James, for stopping by. And we'll definitely make sure we keep up to date with your video series. And you could check it out on Train World TV on YouTube. And check out James Wright channel as well at JLWII2000. Thank you so much, James. Do appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Have a great night.
Thanks. See you guys. Bye.